Okay, let's we'll take our seats and we'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start tonight with the public hearing on municipal referendum election to be held on 3/26 in regards to RSU 21 cost sharing revisions.
What I've done is I've taken the PowerPoint that the RSU had initially put together, thanking Joel Downs of Kennebunk for tweaking it before I got a chance to, so we've made it a little bit more specific to the town of Rundle. I apologize to the selectmen for having to turn around and look at the smart board, but there are also handouts if you'd like to have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. This is in regards to cost sharing. The vote is March 26th. We ask that you please vote yes on cost sharing. And you'll see why momentarily. The 2009 cost sharing agreement. State of Maine determines the minimum recommended amount each local district must spend to provide essential programs and services to students. This is the basic education that the state of Maine feels is sufficient to educate the students of the state of Maine. The state determines how each community will share in the costs that are within EPS. That is the amount, as I stated, that the state feels we can run a school with. This is largely based on pupil counts, though a few other factors are included in the formula. Each local district can determine how it will share costs that are over EPS. Within EPS versus over EPS, for this year, the over EPS portion of the budget is $5,288,353. That's this current fiscal year that we're operating in now. This represents 14.7% of the total $35,888,934 budget to operate RSU 21. It is this 14.7% that has generated much of the discussion around cost sharing. The cost sharing committee met in May. They had several meetings with all communities, and the committees came to an agreement that this was in the best interest of the RSU. At that point in time, the vote was to move this forward to the voters. The current cost sharing agreement. Over EPS costs, which was that $5 million total, the over EPS costs are shared based 60% on each town's share of the district's total state equalized valuation. The state has a formula that they determine where our valuation rates should be in comparison to the valuation rates that we report to them. And 40% of that, each town's share of the district's total is on pupil count. So the current share, Arundel's share of the state equalized value is 9.55%. We have a valuation according to the state of $429 million. We have 22.58% of the students, 601.5, and as Andrew Doloff says, we really don't actually have half kids running around. That applies to the programs that are offered, and that's where that half student comes in. Kennebunk, on the other hand, is 47.32% of the state equalized value at $2.126 billion, and they have 61% of the students, 1,635.5. Kennebunk Port, I apologize, I know you can all read it, but I want to get it in there for the record. Kennebunk Port has 43.13% of the share of state equalized value. They're valued at $1.938 billion. Share of the students is 16%, and they have 426.5 students. So the total valuation of the district with the three communities is $4.4936 billion, and there are 2,663.5 students in the RSU 21 currently. That may have changed due to migration in and migration out, but at the time of this reporting, that was accurate. So the over EPS calculation with 60% state equalized value and 40% pupil count gives Arundel 14.763% of the over EPS cost that has to come from our tax assessments to pay for that, to fund that educational cost. Kennebunk currently is 52.951%, and Kennebunkport is currently 32.285%. So for the proposal of part one of over EPS is that the towns will share over EPS costs determined 90% by each town's share of the district's total state equalized value and 10% pupil count. This will shift in our favor, in Kennebunk's favor. Kennebunkport will be negatively affected by this vote. Arundel, these numbers have not changed, they're same from the slide before. Over EPS calculation, if you use 90% state equalized value and 10% pupil count, Arundel's portion goes down to 10.853% of over EPS costs. Kennebunk's goes down to 48.728% of over EPS costs. And Kennebunkport's goes up to 40.418% over EPS costs. And you can see the change. Currently, we're at 14.763. We'll be going, if approved, our portion will go to 10.853. Kennebunk's will go from 52.951 to 48.728, and Kennebunkport will go from 32.285 to 40.418. Any questions at this point in the game? Wow. There will be a quiz after. And each 1% equals roughly $52,880 on the town's assessment. So the impact to the taxpayer, change in taxes assessed for $100,000 of local value. In Arundel, if you have a $100,000 home, we have the exact same budget next year and cost sharing passes. Arundel residents, $100,000 home will see a $57 reduction in property taxes due to education. In Kennebunk, they would experience a $12 decrease for a $100,000 home, and in Kennebunkport, they will experience a $25 increase in a $100,000 home. So you can see the estimated annual tax savings on a $250,000 house in Arundel would be $142.50, and that is strictly for the revision to the cost sharing formula, the over EPS portion of the cost sharing formula. And then there's new debt. Part 2 of new debt states that the district will share any new local-only debt based 100% on state equalized value. That new local-only debt is proposed renovations to ML Day, proposed renovations to Kennebunkport Consolidated, and proposed renovations to the Kennebunk High School. So we assume, and these are all assumptions, I don't want to scare anybody out of the room, we're assuming that the Kennebunk High School project costs $54 million, Kennebunkport Consolidated project costs $9.8 million, ML Day School project costs $4 million. The total new debt would be $67.8 million. That means a second year debt service payment of $5.97 million. The reason that that's highlighted there is the second year in any bonding package is typically the most expensive year of repayment. So the numbers that we'll experience next take into consideration that highest cost year in the repayment of the bonds. So the current formula impact on mill rate. With the package that we discussed previously, Arundel's taxpayers would have a $2.34 increase on their tax bill per 100,000. Did I get that right? Current formula impact on mill rate, $2.34 on the mill rate if we approve that package. Kennebunk would be looking at $1.67 and Kennebunkport $1.06. If the new formula, which is 100% state equalized value, is approved, Arundel would experience a $1.51 impact on the mill rate, Kennebunk $1.50, and Kennebunkport $1.42. So the difference for Arundel would be an 83-cent decrease per 100,000, 83-cent per thousand decrease. Kennebunk would be a 17-cent per thousand decrease, and Kennebunkport would experience a 36-cent per thousand increase. So for a $100,000 home in Arundel, $83 decrease, Kennebunk $17, and Kennebunkport would be experiencing a $36 increase. Annual savings on a $250,000 home in Arundel would be $207.50. Now, keeping in mind that this is for the highest repayment year of the bond schedule, these savings would be realized each year of the 20 or 30-year bond package that they decide to go with. The savings amount will just decrease each year because of the lower bond repayment costs. Any questions? Part 3 is school closure. That the school closure language be edited to further protect elementary schools in Arundel and Kennebunkport. If the Regional School Unit Board takes action to close an elementary school in a member municipality, the voters in the member municipality may vote to keep the school open. If this action is taken, state law requires the municipality in which the school is located to be liable for the cost of keeping the school open for 1 year. However, by this agreement, if the Regional School Unit Board takes action to close an elementary school and the voters in the local municipality vote to keep the school open, the district-wide over EPS costs will be adjusted so that the remaining municipalities will assume responsibility for an amount equal to the share each would have paid to operate the school proposed for closure by the Regional School Unit had it not been proposed for the closure. All those words in red mean that we wouldn't have any financial impact to the town of Arundel. If Arundel decided to vote to keep the school open, those costs would be distributed through the RSU the same way that they're distributed now. And the next one will sum it up for you. If you want, did you want me to read that again, Mrs. Hall?
So I'm just trying to understand it. So if the district, you want to,
I'll flip.
okay.
It removes any financial incentive to close either Mildred L. Day or Kennebunkport Consolidated. And the voters in those towns could vote to keep their school open with no change in the final cost to any town. So the vote by the community, let's say they propose to close ML Day School, voters in Arundel voted not to close it, it would be as though the RSU board vote never actually happened
Until the following year.
until the following
Okay,
year.
that's, it's only for 1 year.
And then the
But the
following,
1 year is if the following year, the RSU decides again to close it. If they
And then
do
they-
nothing, then it stays the same.
and then they would, you guys would have to vote again.
Yeah.
And then it would be kind of like,
You're
it's
going
basically
forever.
asking you, do you want to leave?
So, yeah, they could, the RSU board could continually, in 14, 15, propose to close the school, we vote no. 15, 16, propose to close the school, we vote no. So it's just a
So each year
continuous,
stands alone.
yes.
Thanks.
But it removes any financial incentive to close either of those schools. Part 4, old debt does not apply to the town of Arundel, but I'm gonna go through it for you just so that you're aware of what's going on in the entirety of the RSU. The portion of the pre-existing debt from the former MSAD 71 that came under dispute in 2010-11 be shared equally by Kennebunk and Kennebunkport. This has been a long, ongoing battle between Kennebunk and Kennebunkport. Debt for middle school of the Kennebunks and Kennebunk Elementary School with decreasing payments. Dispute was over the way this debt was split, whether they were to use the state formula or the local formula. And in fiscal year 14, the amount in question is $351,000. So the impact to Kennebunk's taxpayer, there would be a 9-cent decrease per $1,000 worth of value, and Kennebunkport would be a 10-cent increase in value, in the per mil, for their property value. And it has no impact on Arundel. TIF districts. That tax increment financing districts count toward each municipality's share of the district's total assessed value. Kennebunk is the only town making use of TIF districts. Currently, the TIF districts are not taken into consideration when they are calculating the town of Kennebunk's state equalized value. So they will be adding, if this is approved, the TIF district, which I believe is on the next page. Does it have the value though? Does not, off the the top of my head, I don't know what that dollar figure is, but I believe it's in the several $1 million. So the current share of the district valuation is 9.6% for Arundel. If the TIFs are taken into consideration, we would have 9.5%, which is a change in the mill rate of 0.006. Kennebunk would be experiencing a 0.007 increase in their, per thousand in their valuations, and Kennebunk Port would experience a 0.006 decrease. So if you have a $100,000 home in Arundel, that's another 60 cents that you would be decreasing. If you have a $100,000 home in Kennebunk, you will be increased by 70 cents. And if you're a property owner in Kennebunk Port, you would experience a 60-cent decrease. And the estimated annual tax savings on a $250,000 house in Arundel is $1.50. Every penny counts. Any questions at this point? This cost sharing the proposed revisions to cost sharing state that the next scheduled review of the cost sharing agreement would take place in fiscal year 2017, which is school year 16-17. That was put in there to try to give this formula some time to work, to see how it works in the communities and see if we can all agree that this is a fair and equitable distribution of the resources that we have here in RSU 21. So the summary of savings for Arundel with the new cost sharing approved, the over EPS savings, which is that portion that the state doesn't believe, that is this portion that's above what the state says it should take us to run a basic school. On a $250,000 home in Arundel, there'd be a $142.50 impact. The old MSAD debt has no impact on us. And the TIF value would save us $1.50 for a total savings of $144 to the $250,000 property owner in the town of Arundel by changing the over EPS cost sharing formula only. That would be 90% state equalized valuation and 10% pupil count. If new construction debt is approved, and I need to reiterate here that all of these numbers are hypothetical, there's been no bond packages that have gone out, but if we use this example that was given to us, if the new cost sharing fails, $250,000 home in Arundel will experience a $585 increase in their property taxes for that second year repayment of the debt. If the new cost sharing is approved, a Arundel resident with a $250,000 home would experience a $377.50 increase. It is still an increase to your property taxes, but it would be $207.50 less than if the formula remains as it is today. So overall, if the projects were approved and you use over EPS costs, assuming that next year's budget would be exactly the same as this year's, you would be looking at a $351.50 savings for Arundel, the $250,000 Arundel property owner. And that's why we ask that you infect your neighbors, you infect everybody you can find to please come out and vote yes on March 26th. In summary, the mill rate with school construction approved, if this proposal is approved, and the construction projects for Mildredale Day School, Kennebunk Port Consolidated School, and Kennebunk High School are approved at the current estimates, each town's mill rate would be impacted as shown below. The town of Arundel's mill rate would increase by 93.4 cents per $1,000 of valuation. Kennebunk's would increase by $1.29.7. I feel like I'm selling oil. $1.29.7. I'd like how Sam laughed at that one. Per $1,000 of valuation, and a Kennebunk Port resident would experience $1.76.4 per $1,000 of valuation. As stated in the cost sharing meetings that were held last year, there were members on that board from all three committees, from all three communities, and at that point in time, the committee felt that this was a more fair and equitable way to distribute the resources of the RSU to the communities. So if this proposal is approved and the construction projects for Mildred L. Day School, Kennebunkport Consolidated School, and Kennebunk High School are approved at the current estimates, each town's mill rate would be impacted as shown below. Currently, our mill rate for education in Arundel is $10.67 per thousand. Without the cost sharing revisions, we'd be looking at $13.01 per thousand. And with the projected shift, we will be looking at $11.62 per thousand. In Kennebunk, currently they're at $10.50 per thousand. Projected without the shift would be $12.17 per thousand. And with the shift, they would be looking at $11.82 per thousand. And then Kennebunkport currently pays $3.61 per thousand for education. Proposed, without the shift, they would be looking at $4.67 per thousand, and with the shift, as stated, they do have a negative impact. It will increase their mill rate to $5.35 per thousand. So taxes per 100,000, difference between approving the cost sharing proposal and not, per $100,000 of property value in each town. Using the current formula for a $100,000 home would be a $234 cost to Arundel residents. Using the proposed formula with construction projects approved would be a $95 cost to the taxpayer in Arundel owning $100,000 worth of property. That is a $139 decrease per $1,000. Kennebunk, $167 per thousand, going down to $132 per thousand, for a $35 per thousand decrease, and Kennebunkport, $106 per thousand currently, going to $174 per thousand, and it would be a $68 per thousand increase for residents in Kennebunkport. Please vote yes on cost sharing March 26th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the fire station. Absentee ballots are currently available if you would tell your neighbors and friends and anybody that's interested who can't make it on March 26th. We've been receiving them slowly but surely, and we will take them all the way up until March 21st at close of business, unless there's an extenuating circumstance, such as somebody has to have surgery or their emergency, have to leave the state, then they can vote after the March 21st date by absentee ballot. Any questions? Yes, Mr.
I think it's critical that folks know about the 2/3.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
In order for this to pass, within the district, we need a 2/3 majority vote
Of the district.
of the district. So between Kennebunk, Kennebunkport, and Arundel, 2/3 of the people who vote need to vote in favor. And so that's why it's so important for Arundel residents and Kennebunk residents to come out and vote. I don't want to ignore the fact that it is a negative impact to Kennebunkport, but in the past, Kennebunkport has voted to do just this because of the fact that it is a more fair and equitable distribution of the resources. And so I think that if we can get enough people out to vote, we can make this 2/3 vote happen, and we can successfully pass the revisions to cost sharing in 2013.
I would comment that this presentation's on the town website.
Yes, this presentation's on the town website. The PowerPoint this same presentation that Superintendent Doloff did is on the town's website, and tomorrow this video presentation will be on the town's website as well. Mrs. Hall.
Could you also talk about the town's plan to, as far as the mailings that you're doing?
Yes.
And are all the select people, everybody's on board with this, so we can tell people that it's unanimous?
I think so.
Maybe we could officially ask?
Yeah,
Yes, we'd be can we get a yes from everyone that it's a good thing?
all in favor?
I will be mailing a mailing to all residents. They're at the back of the room if you'd like to take a preview. These are going out tomorrow morning. We killed the printer again on Friday. They were supposed to go out on Friday. So those will go out tomorrow morning. And then we will have on March 21st, we're going to send a postcard mail out as follow-up, so that it lands in people's doorsteps right before the vote, so that they know when to get out there and vote. Jack?
I think I heard a rumor that anybody who doesn't vote on the 26th can
and never come to town meeting again and complain about taxes.
That's always been my motto. I don't typically say it in public, Jack, but if you don't vote, you can't complain. People have always told me that, growing up. And so if you wanna make a difference, if you wanna save yourself some money, potentially quite a bit of money, I would recommend that residents come out and vote.
You've heard of my better half.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to officially, so it's on the video, that we are putting together some volunteers for voting day. If people need help getting rides to the polls, we've got some volunteers to help drive people. And they just have to call town hall, and Todd is collecting those names, and then I'll pick them up and I'll see that people get rides.
Yeah, please contact me. Anyone out there that needs a ride to the polls, 985-4201, and I'll be more than happy to forward that on to Joan.
And if anybody else wants to volunteer, that's great too. Call the same number you call me, Todd?
Absolutely.
Great.
And if any of you should know where any of those, I remember at the last vote, it was the other way around, but there were a lot of vote yes signs, and there were some that were very large vote yes signs. If anybody knows where any of those vote yes signs are, and can get their hands on them, to get them out along the roads, or just to let people know.
Didn't the town buy some signs?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
so
not
that's-
as many as there are out there. And I would also recommend to anyone that's going to put signs out that not necessarily right in front of the fire station I don't think necessarily need to be there for this vote. I think maybe spread a little further out so that people can jog people's memory that that's the day that they need to vote, so. Yes, Mr. Hall.
Thank you. Following up on that, the normal turnout for a vote like this, where there's nothing contentious going on, like electing the selectmen or something like that, is pretty low. It's about 400, 500. This is a no-brainer. I mean, this is money at the bank. All you have to do is put your vote in and you get money if enough of us do it. How imaginatively can we get people to vote? I mean, we've racked our brains, and short of getting Tom Brady and the cheerleaders up here, we can't think of anything that would get people to vote.
You can't lead them to believe that they will benefit monetarily, other than through their taxes. I mean, you can't promise them we'll give you a candy bar if you come vote. How creative you can get, Simone knows the rules on that better than I do, I think. As long as everything's truthful.
Well, I mean, word of mouth counts for a lot, and leadership counts for a lot, and you guys are our leaders, and you know a lot of folks. And I would urge you to do whatever you can to try to get them out, because this is a big vote. It has a lot of money at stake for every one of us. And if we lose because of 20 people not showing up, it'll hurt.
Just so you know, Sam, everybody I see, I tell them to vote yes, but now that the town hall is a polling place, we can't talk about it anymore, so all of these handouts are right on the counter. But we can't convince somebody to vote one way or the other when they're actually at the polls. So when I'm outside of the building, or when I'm out in public and I see people, I ask them to please come out and vote yes.
Well, there will be people at the dump.
Yes.
Next 2 Saturdays,
Absolutely.
harassing and passing out information, passing out these flyers, letting people know what's going on, so.
But there's nothing wrong at town hall, or for anybody, just to get people to vote.
Nope.
I mean, I think
Nothing
the
wrong with
yes
that.
and no, people will figure that out, it's to get the bodies there.
Absolutely.
So I wonder if the other select people have any ideas or good ways of getting hold of your,
All I've been doing is telling people the benefits of voting
Yeah.
in the affirmative here. It's pretty straightforward, and telling them that you'll get more information if you want more information, where to get it. But,
any other ideas of how we can reach more people?
I'm gonna attempt to, I've tried before unsuccessfully, I'm gonna send an email to ML Day School, to Thornton Academy, and ask them to send with their e-alerts that they send out, reminding parents to vote.
That's a good idea.
That's worked in the past. I'll ask Andrew, because I know we have high school students, and see if they can send things home with the students as well.
That's a good
I'm FOTAM's secretary, so I can.
Oh, okay.
Is there a robocall at all that is set up for Andrews? Do you know if Andrew's doing one?
I don't know if Andrew's doing one, but I can find out. I don't have a robocall. I just have my email distribution list at this point in time.
See if he's doing one, because I know, and also you could, I don't know if they can separate it, but sometimes they can do a TAM's text blast as well to parents. you can ask if they can send one out to the parent.
I most certainly will do that.
And I know you said you can't, bribe people to get there, but, and I hope that this is a good bribe, the Historical Society is having a food sale that day. And of course, it's all homemade goodies, so we hope for a large turnout so that we can sell lots of good stuff.
I'll give you another teaser, Velma.
Yeah?
There's gonna be a picture of an old farmhouse at the bake sale that the AHS is holding. Trying to figure out where this farmhouse is a picture that a former resident had sent to Simone. So we're trying to identify that. So more people that can come up and tell us where that farmhouse was, the better.
Not as good as the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom is almost here, by the way.
Yeah. And Dawn, you had your hand up.
No, Jerry, he answered it.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Say that closes the public hearing, Madam Chair.
Okay, that's it, and the public hearing is closed. We'll go to our regular call to order and approval of the agenda.
So I have one question on it. On the fourth page, second paragraph down, next to the last line, should that be Old Delphin Road instead of Old Post Road?
You're ahead of this bill.
You're ahead of this bill.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry.
That-
Well, I'm in a hurry.
Yeah.
He really wants to know.
Yeah.
You're right, it is Alfred
Well,
Road.
it's just a big-
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Public forum, now under public forum, anyone may discuss an item which is not on the agenda.
I have some good news things to put out there. There are, 5 Arundel TA students that have just won the Southern Maine Drama Festival, and they're heading to Camden for the States. It's the States version of of football and basketball, and they're for theater kids. So I just wanted to put out there that the Arundel kids are making a half of it. They are Lauren Dickinson, Luke O'Connor, Connor Heavey, Sydney Curran, and Katie Doobie.
Congratulations.
Wonderful. Okay. And you will let us know how they do so that we can put it on the
I
town's
will.
website and the whole
Traveling
thing?
to Camden myself in 2 weeks.
Okay,
It's a nice run.
Yeah, great.
All the traffic.
wonderful, congratulations. Anything else under public forum? All right, moving on. Committee and board reports.
Couple minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, now I'm, yeah, I'm going right past the
And you
Bill's
are right.
minutes.
It should say Old Alfred Road and not Old Post Road. You're right, I'll correct that. It should be Old Alfred Road.
Where's that, Simone?
On the fourth page,
Fourth
second
page.
paragraph.
DOT plans for it's supposed to be Alfred Road, Old Alfred Road, New Road intersection, and
Oh.
not Old Post Road. Under municipal reserve, that second paragraph where it says Velma suggesting 20,000 from the municipal reserve.
Oh, yeah,
for the
right
Oh,
Yep.
okay, yeah, all
It
right.
should say Old Alfred and not Old Post Road.
Oh, all right, okay.
Okay.
Move we approve as amended.
Second? Been approved and seconded, all in favor? All right. I'm getting ahead of myself. Committee and board reports.
Okay, so I need to make a correction on letter B, but RSU Kennebunk High School Building Committee meeting is on March 14th at 3:15 p.m. The RSU Finance Committee meeting, I would strike that. On the table in the back of the room and in front of you, I've put the new schedule for the RSU meetings. There has been a change because of the uncertainty of education funding, as well as the ED 279s that may not be available until little later than we thought. So that process has moved back a little bit. So that public hearing is not at 7:30 on the 15th. And please just review right there.
No,
in front of
that's
you.
7:30 AM, that's the finance committee meeting.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, okay.
Public forums.
D?
The public forum as
Oh,
well, I'm
okay.
sorry, okay, yes. So the finance committee will meet on the 15th at
Yeah.
7:30 at A102. It's the public forum that won't be held, and that was supposed to be held on 3/25.
And there was, at the last week's meeting, there was a concern with these dates, if everything was okay with you as far as being able to,
Hold the elections,
Yeah.
and yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and we went through those, and I think we're on the same page. The Economic Development Committee meets tomorrow night at 7 PM at Arundel Town Hall. Should be an interesting meeting, they've gotten quite a bit done in the last few weeks. Thank you very much to the EDC. Budget Board meeting, the Budget Board will meet at 7 PM on Wednesday the 13th, and that meeting will be held in the conference room. We've been bumped by the Scholastic Book Fair. So anyone who wishes to attend will be in the conference room. And then the Planning Board meeting will be held Thursday the 14th at 7 PM, but that meeting has been moved to the CEO's office at Town Hall. Once again, we've been bumped by the Scholastic Book Fair.
Okay, so the budget board is this Wednesday
Is this Wednesday?
in the
correct?
conference room.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Selectman Dubois, did you have a report for the planning
no,
board?
I didn't make the, I missed the last one.
That is on my part. It's all right.
Okay, and I will plan on going to that
I'll save you.
finance committee meeting on the 15th. And I'll be at the budget board meeting too. All right, new business, update on MDOT 213-15 work plans as it pertains to Arundel.
The work plan came out last week. Arundel has project ID number 019002.00, highway safety and spot improvements. Alfred Road intersection improvements located at the intersection of Alfred Road and New Road. It's a $500,000 project that has been bumped to the calendar year 2014-15 list. From what I understand, it's been on the list for about 5 years now. But we're being told that that will be done in 2014-15, as well as the highway safety and spot improvements to the intersection of the Alfred Road and the Hill Road. Those have also been bumped to the 2014-15 calendar year. If anyone would like a full list of the projects that are going to be happening in the main DOT work plan, just send me an email or give me a call and I can send that to you. It's a 165-page document.
It's on their website.
Yes, it is on their website as well, ndot.gov. You can also, let's see, Kennebunk Arundel, they're going to be doing in the 14-15 project year, preliminary engineering for future bridge improvements for the Bartlett Bridge, which is over the Kennebunk River at the Arundel-Kennebunk town line. That bridge is getting up there in years, and they want to explore what it's going to cost to replace it and what the most feasible way to do that is. So that's going to be on the planning phase, but that will be also in the 14-15 calendar year.
I wondered when they get to that bridge. Although usually whenever that river floods, that is one of the few bridges that there's no problem with, yeah. Okay, inform the board of availability of nomination papers.
This isn't a hint, I'm just letting you all know. 2 selectmen for 3-year terms, Velma and Dana. 1 RSU director for a 3-year term, Dan Pleva. 2 budget board for 3-year terms, Sean Hayes, and 1 vacant seat. And 2 budget board for 2-year terms. There's a 2 vacant seats there as well. There's quite a few vacant elected positions on the budget board. Those papers will be ready on March 18th, and they're due back on April 26th. Get those at Town Hall by speaking to Simone, or any of the ladies at Town Hall.
Madam Chair? Renee, please. I did an interview with the Post this past week, and part of that interview, I did let them know that I will not be running for re-election. My position will be available. It's just my philosophy of government that when this community was formed in ancient days, everybody was tasked to serve the community in some way for a period of 2 years. And if they wanted to be part of that community, I've served, this will be my 6th year. I've enjoyed it, but it's time to give somebody else a chance. I see a lot of good people in this community who could really serve this community well. And I want to give them a chance to serve on the board. So I will not be running for re-election, giving people the opportunity to do some planning, maybe caucus a little bit, and figure out who wants to do what. As part of that interview, I did also talk about the cost sharing. So whether or not that makes the newspaper or not, I don't know. But there were several other parts of that interview. Just so there's no surprises for reading the paper, I thought it'd be nice for the press. Thank you.
Okay, and those are available March 18th. Review and sign the AP warrant.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Okay, old business. No concealed weapons. Any other business? Any other business? The Historical Society is also selling raffle calendars for the month of May, and I believe Simone has some at the town hall. They're $5 each. Every day there's a prize. I think the minimum prize for any day is $50, and please buy several. So. And Suzanne has a whole envelope full back there.
Just happened to have them, right?
Yeah. Anything else? All right, second?
A second.
All in favor? All righty.
I'll take one of those things. Oh, I've already got one.
There we go.
Let's get this sold first.